What's up, Raiders? Bionic here. Welcome to another Raid Shadow Legends video, which is going to be a build video today on Peydma. Peydma is a very special champion to me right now. She came in very late on my account, but she enabled so much. She enabled basically consistency. And I think as you progress in the game or as your account gets older, that is sort of what you want. To be able to hit like 100% success rate on your dungeon runs, to have clan boss runs that are very repeatable, right? So you can always depend on your damage, and so you never end up with these days where you can't actually get your top chest, okay? So we're gonna go over her kit real quick. We're going to then cover some of my results for the clan boss. That is one of the main places I use her. Faction wars obviously as well. And then I'll show you guys a couple of examples, okay? So why is she so great? Decrease attack A1 champion. But when we look at the list of decrease attack champions, A1 specifically, right, we have single target. That is typically what we're looking for because it's on a one turn cooldown. It's on the A1, right? So we know very well Tyrell, Alton, Jareg, Crimson Helm, but not that great because it's only one turn. Sepulchre Sentinel, Coffin Smasher, Bogwalker, Veteran. Probably some of the ones that we know very well. But what's great about her is that it's actually a decrease attack, A1, AoE, on a one-turn cooldown. Not a lot of champions have this in the game. There is Peydma, see right here, 50% increase attack, AoE 1, and Maneater. All they need is to have basically a crit. That is huge. It is huge because like, it's so rare, first of all. It's void on top of that, which means you'll never have the affinity weakness, okay? So the rest of her kit is not the best. We would love to, let's say, like a Sepulchre Sentinel have increased defense on top of this, but come on, we can't ask for everything, right? So when I got her, decided to build her immediately and kind of just worked my build around this new champion. Also, her A3 is actually pretty interesting. If you do not have a champion to remove basically the buffs on the clan boss, on the affinity bosses, she can do that, especially if you reduce this to a 3-turn cooldown, and that will actually work to her advantage because that's usually an increased attack buff on the clan boss, and that is going to affect the damage output of her A1, and I'll show you guys some examples. She does deal a lot of damage. So anyway, let's get going with first the gear. So my situation is a little bit unique, perhaps compared to other players who might build her a little bit differently, simply because I am using Battle of Khazar in the lead. Battle of Khazar came first, one of my best auras that I did not have for a very long time on my account. Okay, so I get 25% crit rate. What this allowed me to do is on most of my defense type champions, instead of running defense percent, defense percent, defense percent, I can do crit damage gloves. So I can pump out a little bit more damage out of my defense-based champions, okay? The rest of the kit is pretty straightforward. You're going to need to hit that speed threshold, right? You're going to want to be between that 171 and we'll say 179-ish speed. So substats is basically anything that's going to emphasize that. What is great about her, again, because of her A1 also scaling off of attack, is that pieces like this that have crit rate, attack, and defense percent is perfect. Perfect for this champion, and I love this because very few champions in the game actually scale off of both. So a maxed out weapon is great. Then we have, obviously, here a little bit more crit rate, speed, crit damage. Gloves are, like I said, crit damage. We've got some speed on here. Attack, great again. HP. The chest piece, defense percent, obviously. Still only 5 stars, but we've got some crit rate, accuracy, defense, and speed. And then we've got defense percent boots with, again, more crit rate, accuracy, defense, the whole stuff, right? Everything, basically, all these pieces, all the substats, except for perhaps resistance right here, is all working in our favor, okay? Which is what I really like. We have a flat defense ring with a lot of HP. I would prefer to have a little bit more defense percent, but hey, you know, I just don't have that. I was also able to work in a crit damage amulet, okay? And finally, obviously, an accuracy banner with a decent amount of speed, and then the rest being great as well. So total stats for my Peydma right now is almost 4,200 defense, 173 speed. We've got 83% crit rate. Remember, I only need 75% to get 100%. And then we have 191% crit damage. I will get a little bit more when I finish the amulet, and then roughly just enough accuracy with the basically this gear. Okay, so overall, pretty good. I suppose I could be closer to 4,500 defense. I suppose I could have 250% crit damage. But guys, again, remember, free-to-play account here, so, you know, gear is always somewhat of an issue. As for skills, you want to completely max out the A1 for sure, because this is going to increase to a 100% chance of placing that 50% decreased attack. If you are not running her with a Battle Khazar, then you're going to want to make sure you do have this 100% crit rate, okay? So this is going to ensure that she's always placing the decreased attack, which is really, really important. You can even use her in dungeons with great efficiency because of this. For these two, it's not as important. However, if you want this to fall in line with the clan boss, and so she'd basically be doing on each counter attack her A1, and then in each between of the 3 skills of the clan boss, she's going to be using her A2 and A3. Okay, you also want to line up the A3 so that you steal that buff right after the clan boss is going to do one of his AoE. Okay, so I didn't do this for the longest time. Decided to do it because I now have a martyr, which is a second chance to apply the 50% decrease attack. Therefore, I assume that between these two, I should never have any issues, because don't forget, you do have always only a 95% chance of placing a debuff on the clan boss. Okay, there's this 5% chance that it is going to be resisted. So masteries, pretty straightforward, typical counter-attack build, right? Therefore, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but a War Master being very important, and then these two right here, Retribution and Deterrence, okay? So now let's look at the Great Hall, obviously, because this is affecting the stats overall. As you can see, I have a lot of stuff done for the Void Affinity. Big fan of Void Champions, as I assume everybody is. Right now, trying to finish the attack and the HP. So you got to factor that in, okay? Keep that in mind. Also in gold tier 4. Now for the results of my clan boss runs, which starts about 2.5 months ago. Okay, so this is right before I got Peydma, and this is sort of what I was running. I was using the Bulwark with the Lightsworn, which has decreased attack, but it's on the A2 only 3 turn cooldown to hopefully get this to proc often enough so that I can kind of maintain this right. It was working to some extent, but obviously it was very inconsistent, okay? So, like I said, Peydma addressed that issue quite well, and so about 2 months ago, this is what I was running, okay? And since this has been somewhat my build until about 2 weeks ago when I got Martyr, and then I'll show you guys a little bit what I've been doing since, okay? Look at her damage, which is still very respectable compared to, let's say, Rosin and the Occult Brawler, which is our Poisoner, right? In this setup, however, I do not have increased defense, but this is Void. When you do the Affinity bosses, you will see that her damage goes up, right? That is because we are, like I said, on some cases stealing that increased attack buff, and she's using that to her advantage, which is really nice. So that was magic. Here we have force, again, decent amount of damage, and finally here we have my horrible spirit performance. But hey, I didn't really have a solution for this. Still today is somewhat of a problem for me since I've transitioned over to Ultra Nightmare, okay? So you can see that this is ending like, you know, 5 minutes early, right? So damage would be a little bit better, obviously, for Peydma. But this is what I love about her. It's the fact that it's the same champion for every affinity. Okay, so now here's the performance with double counterattack. So what is double counterattack really giving me in here? It's basically the increased defense along with the ally protection. Then you can sort of stagger these counterattacks, which doesn't really do much, right? Because on the third hit, you still get a one hit on one champion, so you're not effectively getting an extra turn of counterattack. Instead, Martyr is just putting it on everybody, and then Skull Crusher is putting it on everybody but himself, but because of the ally protection, it's adding survivability. But the increased attack is working in the favor of my Peydma, and you see here a little bit more damage out of all this, okay? So I'm sort of playing around with this right now, but even compared to, let's say, some of my best runs without double counter attack, you can see that like the Rosin is still pretty good, okay? The Rosin deals a lot of damage, is really good, but my Peydma is still crucial for this to work correctly. It added, like I said, consistency to my runs, which is what I've been looking for such a long time. Before Lightsworn, it was like Crimson Helm, and that was even less consistent. So now I am really happy about my Peydma, and so this is basically now the run that, not the run, sorry, but the build that I am using with this champion, okay? So obviously, like I said, you can use her in Faction Wars as well. I do use her. She hits relatively hard. You'd be very surprised at how hard these two skills hit as well. And not to mention having this with the 50% decreased attack adds a ton of survivability to your team. Okay, so guys, that's really it today. Just an overview of my Peydma, one of my crucial champions right now for clan boss. I want to know who else is using her, how are you using her, and what kind of stats have you reached with this champion. What do you guys think about this right now? Could I adjust something to make this a little bit better? Am I too low on accuracy? I feel like overall it's working relatively well, but maybe somebody has some good suggestions for me. Anyway, that being said, thank you so much for watching today, guys, and I will catch you later.